Be made unfiltered. 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 Be made.
Hello Zambia, and welcome to BM8 Unfiltered, another exciting episode, another Friday where Honorable Brian Mundubile answers all the questions that you have burning on your hearts. Remember, this particular platform was created for you to interact with 2026 presidential candidate for Tonse, and he answers all the questions that you have burning on your heart in real time. So there's a number on the screen where you're sending all your questions, and remember, on the various Facebook pages that we are on, including the Brian Mundubile Facebook page, if you're watching us from there, the Fintu Nilungu Facebook page, or if you're catching us on any other platform that may have shared this particular video, well, leave your comments and we'll be able to have him answer those particular questions and bring them, to rest for most of it. Let's get straight into it. It's been a busy week, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Buchi, and hello, Zambia.
How's been your week so far?
The week has been good. We've been busy. Of course, to the Zambian people, I'm saying Muli Shani, Tili Bwanji. Easterners are my traditional cousins. So they say Tili Bwanji, Tujibiepi, Luchwani. I'm actually learning languages. When I was growing up, Buchi, I could speak Lunda, Lubale, and Kaunde. Of course, with time, I lost that. I'm trying to get that back.
Oh, you're doing very well. At least your pronunciation of our Eastern languages is getting better.
I started my school in Solwezi at Kikombe Primary School, so I could speak the languages there.
Amazing. Let's get straight into the meat of our conversation. The Ghanaian president, His Excellency John Mahama, was in town, and he left quite an impression, not only for his outfit, his traditional outfit, but also he spoke on the need for strong democratic institutions in Africa, and that the continent does not really need strong men, and he made various statements. What did you make of his visit and some of the statements that he made?
His visit was very significant, and like you said, he left quite an impression, and specifically and especially to our government. Many a time there's been a number of discussions concerning the weak governance systems as regards the judiciary, as regards the legislature, and many other institutions under the executive. So the statement by the Ghanaian president, who greatly assists our government in that when the opposition speak, sometimes it's taken to be mere, a noise. But this time around, the president made his submission. He made a statement on the floor of the House. And you're speaking from an informed background. I have been to Ghana several times, and I can attest to the fact that the governance institutions are indeed very strong. I agree with him, and I agree with the statement, especially where he says African countries do not need strong men, but strong institutions. So the ECZ should pick a leaf from that. The judiciary should pick a leaf from that. The Auditor General's office should pick a leaf from that. FIC and all other institutions. Buchi, they say that the greatness of a nation is judged from its fidelity to the law. So clearly, if you want to make Zambia great, you must build strong institutions so that it's not dependent upon how good a president of that time is, but the systems, the institutions that exist will be able to discipline whatever individual that assumes office.
When you do get into office, how do you plan to ensure that these strong institutions that you build outlive you and they continue, as opposed to subsequent government coming in and then they change again?
There are two sides to it, Buchi. First of all, I want to tell you that the current systems, there are enough laws that exist today that should be able to discipline even an indisciplined government or dishonest government. The constitution, is in place today. So it's not so much that the systems are absent. Okay, it's not so much that the systems are absent. The systems may be there, others may need strengthening. But you may have, like as the case is, you may have individuals in office that simply do not follow the law. I'll give you a simple example. The Constitution is very clear, with how you handle public assets. Being in government, those the elite that are in government, the governors, the rulers, are very, very powerful people. If there are no watchdog institutions to check their power, a lot of things can go wrong. You can imagine that you're a president of the country and you've got the entire portfolio of state assets under your control. If there is no check on your power, you could begin to sell, government property just like that. So there is a provision in the Constitution, for instance, that speaks to how state assets are disposed of, how state assets are transferred. But we have a government today that could transfer a state property like a road between Lusaka and Ndola. It transfers that road in people's hands without coming to Parliament as required by law. They could transfer rights or shares in a mine without coming to Parliament. So my point there is, it's not so much that some of these systems do not exist, but it's to what extent are the individuals in government in compliance with these particular systems. Yeah, so I agree with this statement. There is need to do more, but can we start first of all by complying in full with what we already have?
There's another matter of public interest, which is Zambia and the US are yet to sign an MOU regarding health assistance from the United States. And first of all, what advice would you give this administration as far as engaging the US over health financing, as far as the health financing is concerned, especially that there is reports of access to Zambia's critical minerals?
Well, I'll divide it into two. Remember, Buchi, I've said this before, that in my government, the starting point is Nakulumutinta Pamakasa. So it doesn't matter whether the Zambian government is signing these agreements with the Swedish government or the British government. The first thing is we have to look at the healthcare system and how it benefits Nakulumutinta Pankasa as a starting point. When you come to the other side of your question, where you talk about critical minerals, at this stage it's very important for government to give full disclosure of this particular MOU. We have been speculating based on information that we get sometimes informally regarding the complexion of this particular transaction. So I think it's important that government comes out clean. After all, these are public documents. They are acting for and on behalf of the Zambian people. It's important for government to disclose these particular MOUs and the contents, so that Zambians like myself can fully contribute to that discussion. We only have one side of this particular MOU, where we know that some healthcare facilities and medicines will be given to, offered or sold to the Zambian people at some cost. The other details remain very rare. So I'll take advantage of this to call upon government to give full disclosure to what the contents of that particular MOU is. Let's maybe take it that the American government is interested to get some critical minerals in exchange. Let's take it to the extreme and believe that. So we go back to the original position. What is in it for the Zambian people? Yes, this would be in exchange with some minerals. Is it a fair deal? Is it a win-win situation? Is Nakulumutinta Pankasa benefiting in any way out of this transaction? That will be my reaction.
Interesting that you put your position on the importance of, first of all, disclosure, but also the benefit to the Zambian people. Let's go to look at the Mulungushi textiles, which we were talking about, I think, on our last episode, where it's another matter that begs your comment, where there's a push to reopen Mulungushi textiles. As commendable as this move appears, a number of stakeholders feel this is electioneering. How do we get sufficient industrialization in Zambia that is really beneficial and that is long lasting?
Yes, maybe before I delve into the substance of your question, the background to the Mulungushi story is well documented. And I understand that many people are getting frustrated. They're actually getting suspicious that the reopening of this could just be electioneering. The reason is simple. Some 2 years ago, there were pronouncements, the effect that the Mulungushi textile was to open within 2 months, 3 months, whatever it was. And containers started arriving. It was later discovered that, that was not true. Now, in order to create sustainable jobs, like you asked, we have to industrialize. To be able to industrialize, we should invest. That particular investment there, like Mulungushi textile, is a very, very important investment if properly managed. But it will require a leadership that will plan to the end. Buchi, you must understand that that's a very big industry. I remember that when the former Minister for Central Province, Honorable Sidney Mushanga, was negotiating with the company that is investing in that Mulungushi textile, we actually had gone together to China. They were able to show us what they were doing with their textile industry, as it were. We're very encouraged in that, it also included the agriculture side of things, the farmers. It's a clear value chain where that particular industry had outgrower schemes supporting farmers to grow cotton. Okay, in the process, there was a lot of business to do with transporters, a lot of jobs created through workers that are working on these farms. So besides the workers that you see in Kabwe, at the facility in Kabwe, there were many other indirect jobs that were associated to this particular industry. So this was to be the mainstay for Kabwe. Kabwe previously had mines. I think they were mining zinc and many other minerals. It was a mining town, and those mines are no longer there. So there's an urgent need to introduce some new industries around Kabwe to be able to absorb the workforce that is around Kabwe. So to answer your question, industrialization requires investment. And once you invest, you industrialize, you create employment. Like I've always said, employment creation is the biggest weapon that you have against poverty. Yeah, so there's more that needs to be done. We need to see industries like there was Kifco in Kabwe, there was Mulungushi textile. There were quite a number of industries, around Kabwe before privatization. So in terms of infrastructure, I think they have got enough infrastructure. Yeah, so going forward, government should take interest to see what industries can come up in Kabwe so that employment can be created.
Let's talk about the push to have local manufacturers reduce prices, following what government says is improved macroeconomic environment. What's your position on this?
Maybe it's too early. It's too early to make this call. We have to look at sustainability. You don't have prices drop within one day and you rush to the media asking people to drop prices. We've seen this before. We've seen it even with fuel and many other commodities. In a particular month, the prices go down and people begin to adjust the prices downwards. The very following month, the prices are up again. So I think that it's a free market economy, remember. People are competing. So if this particular if the macroeconomic environment has indeed improved and it can be sustained like that, you don't even have to call upon the business community to reduce the prices. Because of competition and because it's a liberalized market, the prices can begin to compete downwards on their own. So it's not up to someone to go and say, can you please begin to reduce the prices? No.
Maybe they're responding to that. That's their position, because they're saying we have done our part in terms of getting some of the fundamentals. Like recently, there was a reduction in fuel prices for this particular month. Don't you think that's what is driving this?
Well, you actually have shortage of fuel on the market now because of these distortions. If you look at traders, Buchi, and if I remember my accounting well, you had what you'd call the replacement cost system. This basically you base your prices. You base your prices on the current price. So let's say you were ordering your goods when the dollar was at 22, okay, and you spent kwacha equivalent on this particular item. You spent 22,000 kwacha. Okay, so you're going to base your price based on 22,000 kwacha. assuming now that the dollar is sustained at 18 kwacha, meaning that you'll be paying 18 kwacha on this particular commodity. So with time, naturally, and because of competition, you're likely to reduce your price. But you will not do it the very first day this happens. Yeah? Because maybe at that particular time, you're still dealing with your old stock and you had paid 22,000 kwacha for that stock. Yeah, so with time, if these fundamentals can be sustained, then of course the market will respond.
Let's now delve into some politics. PF MP for Chama North, Davison Mungandu, was quoted earlier in the week and predicting that several PF MPs will join the UPND. And now that most of these MPs, we're knowing very well that most of them endorsed your candidature. What's your position on this particular statement?
Well, I take great exception. I wouldn't really know what would motivate an MP from the PF, or Tonse in this particular case, to join the UPND. I don't really know what would motivate one. I'm a politician. Every politician, every discerning politician scans the environment. The environment is not good for the UPND now. I would want to believe that a number of UPND MPs would want to come to Tonse. Yeah, because you will have some strong MP in UPND, but you see, they're in a political party that is underperforming. They're in a political party that has brought misery to the Zambian people. They're in a political party that is in power with very weak governance systems, like the president of Ghana observed. Yeah, so clearly what my suspicion would be is that some strong and powerful MPs from the EPND, if they had a way, they would want to compete under a different party. Yeah, because their prospects to be affected by the poor performance of their political party. So when Comrade Mungandu now says he's going to the EPND, you must ask questions. There are a lot of questions to ask. I wouldn't say, he's a friend of mine. I would not want to expose him here. But of course, the people of Chama may comment later regarding Comrade Mungandu, as it were. So those that, it's also possible that there could be MPs in Tonse, PF Tonse, that are not doing well in their constituencies, that whose prospects of winning those seats are very, very slim, and may rush the ruling party. After all, the ruling party is equally doing bad.
Just as you respond to that, where should the loyalty of a politician be in an environment such as ours, where there's now comments that some will actually move from opposition to ruling, or vice versa? But where should the loyalty of a politician be?
It's always tunakulumutinta pankasa, to the voter. It's always to the voter. It doesn't matter what you do. The judgment day is coming. When you go, to vote, that's judgment day. So the voter, whether you have shifted, you're shifting in between political parties, the voter will vote based on your performance. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. You can't camouflage yourself. It's not so much about where you're going. Now, in some cases, you are also affected, by the poor performance of your party. So you can have two things there: a very strong member of parliament standing on a weak political party, especially when you're in the ruling, because when you're in the ruling, the examples are live. Okay, remember that UPND came into power; they had never been into power, so they were viewed as a very strong political party, because they promised 50 kwacha millimil, 11 kwacha fuel, 250 kwacha fertilizer. Don't forget all these things, okay? 8 bags per farmer. So at that particular point, the a voter viewed UPND as a very strong political party, because their manifesto looked good. So even an average member of parliament would easily go through. But now that they're in power, now that they've been tested, a weak fellow, a weak member of parliament, is certainly committing suicide to even cross to go and join them.
Interesting. You're still watching BM8 Unfiltered. My name is Buchizia, and we're here with Honorable Brian Mundubile, who is Tonse President and 2026 presidential candidate for Tonse. So all the questions, contributions that you're putting in the comment section, we will be looking at those in just a little bit. So keep those coming and keep sending them. There's a number on the screen where you can send your comments to WhatsApp, and we'll have access to them almost immediately. Now let's move and look at the ECZ. The commission announced that the delimitation exercise will create 70 new constituencies. What do you make of this particular pronouncement?
Well, maybe the first question to ask, Buchi, is why hasn't ECZ told the Zambian people where these constituencies are? It has remained a secret. It was a secret when Bill 7 was being processed. It has remained a secret. Zambians will be curious. Why is it a secret? You see, in Bill 7, there was a proposal by the UPND and President Hakainde Hichilema to introduce 55 new seats. And in their proposal, they believed delimitation was non-contentious. But the Zambian people refused. The Zambian people actually said delimitation, anything to do with boundaries, is the most contentious. And they demanded to know where these constituencies were. To date, nobody knows where these constituencies are. When the ECZ appeared before a parliamentary committee, submitting on Bill 7, they made it very clear that that concluded their report, and their report had been handed over to the executive. The same executive that kept on passing back the blame at the ECZ. So the whole handling of this delimitation has been very suspicious. There must be something that we don't know, and hopefully we'll find out soon. Now, you must ask why the report from the technical committee moved from 55 to 70. There was a recommendation in the 2019 report, and that recommendation was that as we increase the number of constituencies, as we do the delimitation, there should be a guaranteed minimum of 7 constituencies per province. 7 constituencies per province. So what the technical committee did, it helped resolve some problem, because the 55 was not based on anything. Which, are you getting me?
I'm following.
The 55 was not based on anything. Meaning, if President Hakainde Hichilema could wake up one day and just say, all right, this 40 here and this 15 there, we've done the delimitation. So there was need for a basis. And the technical committee, on that aspect alone, I think they did a wonderful job. Because they now said, let's go back to the recommendation from the 2019 delimitation report, which was that there should be a minimum of 7 constituencies per province. So what ECZ is saying today, they are saying that there will not be more than 2 constituencies added per district. I would like them to go further and still say, whatever the combination, there will be a minimum of 7 constituencies per province. Then that will be fair enough. Even as we wait to know where these constituencies are, then there would have been some equitable distribution of these constituencies. Yes, not more than 1 per district, but there should be a minimum of 7 per province. Then there will be some equitable basis upon which they will be distributed.
What's the biggest risk when it comes to delimitation for you? What do you think is the biggest risk? What's the danger with ECZ not really putting out the report?
Well, when you have leaders who are in the habit of ignoring the constitution, they could just wake up one day and throw more constituencies in their strongholds. Meaning that at that point, they will automatically they will have an inbuilt majority, because they would know that this number of constituencies, when we throw them in our strongholds, we'll definitely win them back. And with the already engineered what do they call it again? The party list system, where there will be a number of seats that won't go through elections, the proportional representation they called it, yeah. So with that system already, and if there's some unfair distribution of constituencies, then you're back to a one-party state. And that's what the problem actually was about Bill 7, was to taking back our country back to a one-party state. A one-party state is nothing but, a country where the governing party or a ruling party could simply garner a two-thirds majority, and they would have gotten that advantage not out of a transparent, accountable, and fair election, but through other machinations like increasing the number of nominated MPs, introducing a system of a proportional representation, not based on the number of MPs, but based on the presidential vote. Yeah, so there are all these systems that create dictators. The one through Bill 7 is such a one. We were very worried as stakeholders because, dictators just don't show up and say they're dictators. There'll be some semblance of systems that they bring about, legislation, even through the constitution, but the end product, the end result is that you have produced a dictator.
Still on the elections, President Hakainde Hichilema, whilst addressing diplomats, recently made an undertaking that the August elections will be free and fair. My question is, what is Tonse doing to ensure that the elections that are coming are going to be credible, free, and fair?
Well, that's laughable. What would have changed between last week, when we had elections in Kasama, and today, for President Hakainde Hichilema to say the elections will be free and fair? What would have changed? Or should we speculate that the visit by the Ghanaian president could have changed something? We had elections last week in Kasama. It's on record. Go there and find out how those elections were transacted. Go and find out to the detail the violence that occurred in Kasama. My campaign team, our campaign team, lost 3 vehicles. They're still there. And the police have not acted. The police have not acted, but Chilangwe and Chitotela are in prison today serving prison sentences. And they're serving prison sentences because they were charged with damage to property out of the 2021, arising from the 2021 elections. Today, property continues to be damaged by UPND cadres, as the case was in Kasama. And what you got instead, the people that were going around discovering or exposing the electoral malpractices are the ones who ended up being locked up. One of our vehicles is still in Kasama because it exposed the electoral malpractices. It discovered that the UPND cadres were busy collecting NRCs and voters' cards, and they had all these documents near polling centers. So when they were exposed, the police moved in and impounded the vehicle. For what reason, God knows. They say, they found some stones in the vehicle, some building stones, and said those were dangerous and they could harm someone. Whatever the case was, the real issue there was, this was the vehicle that was exposing the electoral malpractices. So you have ECZ that is headed by a non-UPND cadre, a member of the Central Committee of the UPND, Madam Zalomes. She's been a member of the UPND. There's another gentleman who attempted to stand in Chirundu. So it's managed by party cadres. So when you talk about free and fair elections, when you talk about credible elections, what exactly is the president talking about? From the time that they got into government, there's never been a credible election held under the UPND. There's never been a free and fair election held under the UPND. Some of the reasons are the reasons that I'm giving you. If you have your commissioners coming from the Central Committee of a political party, whether or not they're acting independently. The independence that you expect to see with an electoral body should not be, it's not enough to be independent. You should be seen to be independent. In this particular case, you cannot say you see ECZ to be independent on account of the people that are running it. And by conduct, we have seen a number of things go wrong. In Kasama, the ECZ was watching whatever was happening. You know, when did you ever hear that ECZ moved in to impose some sanctions on erring parties in any of these elections?
So, based on the things that you've learned from the by-elections that we've held, what's Tonse's position in terms of the things that you're going to put in place to ensure some credibility in these particular elections that are coming August 13th?
You see, if you look at the comments that came from, the statement that came from the Ghanaian president, I don't want to put words in his mouth. We live in a global village. And the fact that we know what happens in Ghana, what's going on in Ghana, it's also possible that the Ghanaians know what's happening in Zambia. It's possible that the Ghanaians have been concerned with how the country is being run. It's possible that the Ghanaians could be worried with how ECZ is being run. So the statement by President of Ghana, we really take our hats off to him. The statement is very timely. And I hope that government to move in swiftly to make certain changes. We demand that changes be made at the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Just to bring in neutral people, preferably retired judges, people who are going to come in and work and discharge their duties with impartiality.
As we go for a break, we'll be going for a short break, and then we'll have President Honorable Mundubile respond to those questions that you have in the comment section. The cost of living for an average family of 5 is now at 11,365, and it has increased from 11,327, and this is happening at a time when civil servants just received an increment across the board of 700 kwacha on their salary. Speak about this particular boost, or rather the paradox that's there, where the cost of living is going up and there is an increment on the salaries.
This is a serious matter, a source of concern. Government needs to be serious when it comes to handling matters that concern the civil servants, the workers, the human resource. You see, Buchi, government is there to deliver development. And government will not deliver development or a constitution, for instance, or a government handbook will not deliver development to the people of Zambia. It will not deliver development to Nakulumuti, Ntapa, and Kasa. It's through the civil service. It's through the civil servants that this development will be delivered. The much talked about free education will not be delivered by the handbooks that Ministry of Education has. It's through these teachers, through these civil servants. It's therefore very important. Government should look at the motivation levels of the civil service. You are right to say the cost of living is very high. Now, if after protracted discussions, you come up and increase the workers' salaries by 700 kwacha across the board, is that really in response to the rate at which the prices of goods and services have been going up? It's only now that the government managed to achieve a single digit as regards inflation. The prices of goods and services, of course, have gone up. Civil servants cannot afford 3 meals per day. It's the same civil servants that you expect to implement your CDF programs, that you expect to implement your free education policy. So if the UPND government was very serious about the policies it's implementing, it needed to look at the plight of the civil servant. In English, we say, you don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And that goose that lays the golden egg is a civil servant. He's the one to implement all these government programs. Now, if civil servants will be treated this way, it's unlikely that they'll be able to get to work motivated and deliver to the expectations of government. I think you remember Buchi. You should have either read about it or you should have been there. What President Sata did when he came into government. You know, he was able to increase people's salaries, civil servant salaries, including domestic workers, to a level that was reflective of the actual cost of living. That's what a responsible government does. A responsible government does not increase salaries in a vacuum, you know, just like abracadabra, or this is what I'm able to do. If there was no money, would understand. But if you look at the wastage, I mean, we've looked at documents. You go to most of these government departments and analyze. You look at budgets per department and how much money these departments are given in allowances. Government would rather motivate and pay huge allowances to a limited number of people, to some known cadres that have been put in government. It's a matter that we want to discuss. We've got the documents to look at, something that we'll be able to expose in not too distant future. But the point really is, this is a joke. This is a big joke. And government should be a bit more considerate. They should be more considerate when it comes to matters to do with civil servants. I think they've dedicated their time. They have done a lot of work to try and save the Zambian people. They should not be sacrificed.
It's now time to interact with you, and he can interact with you live on this particular program, BM8 Unfiltered, right here on the Brand Mundubile Facebook page and other platforms that you're watching this particular episode on. Now, we take a short break, but remember, those particular questions you've been putting in the comment section are what he will be responding to as we come back. Do not move or touch that dial. Stay tuned.
Hello, Zambia. My name is Brian Mundubile. As a leader, my duty is clear: to listen without fear, and to speak the truth without compromise, and to stand firmly with the people of this nation. Join me every Friday at 20 hours for BM8 Unfiltered. You can watch live on Facebook and YouTube. For too long, politicians have done all the talking without listening to you. I want to change that. I'm ready to listen. Whether in the village or in the city, I want to hear from you. Record a short 6-second video of your question or message and send it to the WhatsApp number below. And I'll be sure to answer it during the BM8 Unfiltered show on Friday. Tell me how you want. Hello, Zambia. My name is Brian Mundubile. As a leader, my duty is clear: to listen without fear, and to speak the truth without compromise, and to stand firmly with the people of this nation. Join me every Friday at 20 hours for BM8 Unfiltered. You can watch live on Facebook and YouTube. For too long, politicians have done all the talking without listening to you. I want to change that. I'm ready to listen. Whether in the village or in the city, I want to hear from you. Record a short 6-second video of your question or message and send it to the WhatsApp number below. And I'll be sure to answer it during the BM8 Unfiltered show on Friday. Tell me how you want. Hello, Zambia. My name is Brian Mundubile. As a leader, my duty is clear: to listen without fear, and to speak the truth without compromise, and to stand firmly with the people of this nation. Join me every Friday at 20 hours for BM8 Unfiltered. You can watch live on Facebook and YouTube. For too long, politicians have done all the talking without listening to you. I want to change that. I'm ready to listen. Whether in the village or in the city, I want to hear from you. Record a short 6-second video of your question or message and send it to the WhatsApp number below. and I'll be sure to answer it during the BM8 Unfiltered show on Friday. Tell me how you want.
Welcome back to BM8 Unfiltered. I'm your host, Bucci, and I'm here with Tonse President and 2026 a candidate, Honorable Brian Mundubile, and he's about to answer all the questions you've been sending to us through WhatsApp and as well as through the comment section on the various platforms that we're live on. We're live on Brian Mundubile Facebook page. We're also live on Ifintu Nilungu and as well as live on Hot TV and other platforms. Keep it locked right here. Let's get straight to some of the questions that you've been sending. This one says, greetings to you, Mr. President. To what extent can you rate the CDF success and impact on the Zambian people's livelihood, considering the 40 million kwacha plus funding to each constituency? And then the second question says, do you think you will continue to utilizing the CDF component as it's being applied with the UPND government on infrastructure development such as construction of roads, just for example, instead of promoting the sustainable capital projects? This is Morris Banda from within Lusaka. I think I'll have you respond to that just now.
That's Morris?
Morris Banda.
Yes, Morris, that's a very good question. You want to know to what extent I would grade the CDF. Yeah, I think what is important is to understand that CDF is actually just 2.5% of the total budget. That is very, very important to know. The average budget for the EPND has been averaging around 200, 250. Out of that, CDF is only 5 billion kwacha out of 250 billion. So in essence, it's this 2.5%. Yeah, so I'll be very honest. I think this 2.5% of the budget has performed fairly well. It could have actually done better. If Ministry of Finance was giving this money timely, for instance, we approved the budget in December. If the releases for CDF would start in January, it could have actually achieved more. But Morris, what has happened is that most of this money is actually released in December that particular year. You'd be interested to know that maybe I haven't just checked. Some of the money we're receiving by December 2025 was for 2024. So yes, the figure looks high, 40 million per year. But the releases for this money have been checkered. They've been slow. So if the government had been releasing that 40 million kwacha, which is 25% of the total budget, it would have performed better. So as regards percentage, well, it could go slightly over 50% for what it was intended for. Yeah, so the impact, assuming we had done 100%, Morris, if we had done 100% and we got an A+ on the implementation of CDF, we would have gotten an A+ on 2.5% of the budget. And we still needed to look at how the 97.5 would have performed. Yeah, so I think for now, give them 50%. It has done something. We can't take that away from them. But the implementation has been very poor. The releases have been extremely poor, as it were.
Richard Chola says, good evening, Mr. Mundubile. Sir, my question is, what measures have you put in place? I think he means, will you put in place to ask truck drivers in Zambia working conditions, salaries, and as well as security?
Okay, I can take that. Yeah, Richard, you see, the work of a government is to make sure that it takes care of its people, both those that are in the private sector and those that are in public sector. If you remember, Richard, back in the day, President Sata and the PF government introduced minimum wages even for domestic workers. So it was not only limited to public workers, but even those that are in the private sector. So the measures that we will take to take care of you, our people, the truck drivers, is to introduce what are called sectoral minimum wages. So you divide the economy into sectors, and you divide it into sectors, be it the mining sector, the transport, the what, and everything. So in all those sectors, you set up a minimum wage, because you would have looked at the capacity of that particular sector and what that particular sector contributes. For instance, if we're looking at the transport sector, we know that Richard Chola, who's a truck driver, maybe does four trips to Dar es Salaam, going and coming, and he could land easily $50,000 in the pockets of his employers. So in that particular sector, you take into account all the situations, including the low end and high end, and come up with what is called a sectoral minimum wage. That is the only way you protect the employees in that particular sector. So you don't leave it up to the employers, who sometimes pay their workers very poorly. If you remember, Richard, when there was a minimum wage set for domestic workers, their conditions improved, because as long as you wanted to employ a maid and a houseboy, there was a minimum you could pay them. It was through government policy that this was actually achieved. So even for truck drivers going forward, through what we are calling sector minimum wages, be it those that are working in the mining sector, in the transport sector, in the tourism sector, and many other sectors across, you actually, through studies and empirical studies, you are able to set minimum wages that are both friendly to the employee and the employer.
Joshua Mwanza says, Honorable Brian Mundubile, many ordinary Zambians understand development not through big projects or long speeches, but through very practical and simple realities or ways. Being able to afford a bag of melon meal, cooking oil, transport fares, and access to essential medicines, clinics, and units for ZESCO. And he says, please go beyond the general promises and clearly explain how your policies will change the realities of Zambians.
Yes, Joshua. If you had followed our program last week, we had talked about employment creation. So what you have on one end, you've got high poverty levels. And the question is, how do you reduce these high poverty levels? You only reduce high poverty levels through employment creation. And you can only create employment through industrialization. You industrialize by investing. We gave very practical examples, Joshua. I'm assuming you're a youth, and then you're such a youth that is maybe involved in some simple and basic manufacturing. You are manufacturing basic furniture, you are doing some metal fabrication, you are doing some woodworks, you are maybe marketing vegetables, you could be in some poultry business. We went that far, Joshua. So the policies that would assist individuals in that particular sector would be government intervention. Government will intervene by buying equipment, getting aggregators to get involved, and so on. So basically investing in some equipment that will improve your production. Now, by improving your production, Joshua, if you started off your small business with 2 people, most likely at the end of 2 years, you'll be an employer of 20 other people. So the moment we get you, the youths, assist you with capital, assist you with equipment, and assist you with markets, you'll be able to grow your businesses. You become employers and not employees. So once that happens, the few we are talking about, the units we are talking about, people will be able to afford, because now they've got a job. They've got a job, and because government cares about these same people that are being employed, it has set sectoral wages. They'll be able to get enough money for their transport, enough money to pay for power, and many other essentials, as it were. So those are the basics. We took it really, to the basics, Joshua. But ultimately, there has to be government intervention. We don't believe in that notion that government has no business in business. In this particular case, government should have business in business, especially when it comes to assisting the small-scale businesses going forward.
Another question is from Sebastian Lungu, who says, good evening. I am troubled by the continued misunderstanding within the Tonse Alliance by different groups. We are assured as we assured as followers that these issues will be resolved in the shortest possible time, so that we gear up for the full campaign. Then Sebastian Mukuka says, how convinced are you that come August, your name would definitely be on the ballot? I think you can respond to those two.
Okay, Sebastian, na alaisa tu kama ndanza. Joshua, I think ila question achipisha Joshua is very, very important. So Joshua, mukuipisha kwa question wachitila ukutila tuilanda pafintu ifikalamba sana iyo. So na muno kuti na vika kona muloko language, there may be one or two wa munyine fwe wamo na abalefo kumfuansa. Efo chaba nga tulesha pali economy ya chalo, nga tulefo kutamfye nsala kufwaya ukuingisha abantu ishanchito panto abantu ngo bale kwatenda mapamweshi bale fola na bakwatesha nchito chali yango kutamfye nsala nomba ishisha nchito bala ingila shani ubuteko ufuyo kuingila poku mono kutila bwabalira poku mona bushemisepela kumutendere kwa kalingalinga kwa mandevu kumatero no kwa shala kuuza kile na kuchamboli konse kulya bushe imisepela finshi chita mwala sango kuti imisepele shingi shipanga ifya pala furniture shila chita welding pala sunga kwenkoko kusha kwa matomato na tumbi twalekana lekana so buteko palya ubuteko palya ufilo kukwata moka interest kutila nomba imumwe imisepela wabuchi bwafya nchimwa kukwata muri business mwala sa musangi okuti wabuchi tawa kwata capital ingiyo kaishinangu ama desk yala bapanga na furniture bapanga balesha kwana ka skill bali kwata nomba equipment ila bulila so government kuingila pali yanokumuno kuti yafwa imisepelanga babuchi te ukupanga ma mega factories ifintu bachitapo kufyalo fimbi pakuti la quality ya furniture bale panga ba Joshua Mwanza yachinja nobuteko bwine ubule yafwa na equipment bwala shitako ila furniture mwala sanga tu business wa Mwanza yala kula ila business ya kula mwambile nchito no muipwa na mulamu wenu ebale miafwako after 1 or 2 years mkengisha banchito 2025-30 why because ubuteko na miafwako na machines ubuteko na bwafirisha through EC na capital ero no kumisambilisha emilimo ukubika po bantu eno what do you call this aba quality control na yambe ma government departments ukumuno kuti quality yafintu mulepanga yakuti nobuteko bwina bakateka bene kutwaikala pali la furniture elfu ya ma industry yakula ama trucks mumona yenge alefa ku South Africa na ku China yaleta furniture mwisa muno Mzambia but fwebe ne fweka through government intervention kutuambo kula panga furniture iyako sakabili pantu twalikwata mukwa twalikwata tik twalikwata rozu neti ya shala na furniture iseli mitaikosa na ukosa hiyo so ilianga twakushama businesses aya palafidia no kulundulula ma employment levels mukasango kuti ama challenges yambya ya lemoneka kumisepela na bambifya bantu banchito twambo kuyatamfya edio na aifya palama supreme furniture abe ne bafidia bambile panono so the like of supreme furniture crash furniture ku Congo ifida kuwa Mzambian mwasanga Joshua Mwanza furniture Joshua Mwanza industries efo fyamba ukwa bulo kutubuteko bwingilemo it's very difficult bali abantu nga mwaba munanango abakuma tero no kwa shala even 15 years ago for bali fyafini yofine there's been no improvement no manga cha government ya ingilapo yalama factories tule mona kulenga yali kula so ifo message yesu ya kutila kufulo kuba government intervention in providing equipment, government intervention in providing market, government intervention in providing training and quality control. Zambia Bureau of Standards kuingila poku munokuti ifile pangwa fair standard. So was Sebastian Mukuka baleti nili ilali ama problems yaka po Tonse. Pa Mukuka ama problem Tonse yalipwa. Kwali Congress last week, I think part 28, where President Brian Mundubile was elected Tonse president. Ila process yali credible, transparent and accountable. So palapene epa pwilida ma problems ya Tonse. Lelo kuti kwa wambi fiafine balesha koku but filamu isakamana yo as regards Tonse, the fact that it went through a congress, a leader was elected, ama problems ya kutonse yalipwa. So kanshi limbi echo mwenga fokuishiwa bamu kukacha kutila bushe bamunyine fwe ebutu abana bomo fikansa fya chalo twala bomba na boshani inenga president uwa Tonse uyo wasalilo congress imili munkwete nomba ninya mokulala ndane ntunguluhisha pusana abutu abana bomu PF naba abakumbi na twalia mbaka likuwa mukulanda na bopa kutila tuingesa umanakapi no kubombela pamo. But Sebastian, ama elections efo yaba nga mwashita monitor my elections previously. Let's look at 2011. In 2011, it was not only PF and MMD that were competing. There were many other political parties. There were even squabbles in these particular political parties. You know, it's part of the game. You know, what we should frown upon is the extent of these differences. They'll always be there. Okay? So, twice in 2016, there were several political parties that participated in a particular election, but a winner emerged. The 2021 election was even more interesting because there were several political parties and a number of alliances that went into that particular election. And in this particular case, a sitting government was dislodged. So, Sebastian, you must understand. I know that, like many other Zambians, you want to see the UPND out of power. I agree with you. It's urgent. The UPND should be removed from power. But we can't guarantee an environment which will be perfect, very quiet, and no noise, because the same people we want to remove from power, Sebastian, are the ones who are going behind to sponsor people. If it's total calm, Filamule folk mwana mukuka, yes, we'll try by all means to do that. That is why we made sure went for a congress and chose a leader. But we can't achieve that 100% because the people who are sponsoring confusion are these same people who want to remove from government, through an election. So that is likely to continue. You will be very disappointed ukutulea mkasangati nentungulu fish kalamba. Nentungulu fish kalamba shall compromised. They've been meeting about UPND, baliste mingalato, and then when they come round, balai for balai sonta fwe wakaele, ulani project, ulani project. Walabe ne, muwache chete buino sana. They are causing confusion because they are funded by the UPND. So you must be very, very careful. You look out for such leaders who are causing confusion. They actually, are funded. Those are on a project. And they're in the habit of calling other people projects. Indeed, they are the projects themselves. So through my leadership, we will ensure that, we flush out these elements to stop causing confusion in the opposition. And they'll be able to make progress as opposition political parties together with other, like minds. People who would want to see transparency, people who would want to act above board, and people who would like to provide checks and balances as it were. So check your leaders. Check your leaders. Try to interrogate them, especially those that are in constant confusion. Check them.
We're almost coming to a close of this particular episode, but before we go, there's been a couple of questions that have come around the small-scale mining. Kawatu is asking on small-scale mining. He says, Mr. President, when you have an opportunity to become president, or you've already won, what are you going to do to the youths who are languishing in the compound, like Jerobo's, who do to my small businesses? And another one says,
what's his name? The gentleman name?
That is Enoch Kawatu.
Kawatu.
Yeah, and the other one is Mutwale, who says, what is your take on small mining businesses? So just around small-scale mining in Zambia.
Yes, the concept, Enoch Namutwale, is just the same. The concept on small-scale businesses is just the same. Whether we're talking about tourism, whether we're talking about manufacturing, we are talking about agriculture. The key there is government's role to grow these businesses. Let's talk about small-scale mining, for instance. As a Zambian, inoka watu na Mutwale, mwalikuwa tensa mbuya kwata mining license, vamipela ka exploration, and you go around. And many a time, the young ones, you've been discovering minerals, you've been discovering gold, as it were. What would be government's role? Government with its machinery should be able to go to Mwinyilunga, at this particular area, where there are signs of gold, okay? Be able to do studies. Government should do studies in that particular area to establish the quantum of the resource in that particular area. So once government establishes the quantum of the resource in that particular area, government would have already gotten people like Kawatu, Mutwale, and many other people that have been found working in that area. So the key there, Enoch, is that government should not send people to point guns at you. Those guns should actually be pointing at foreigners who are trying to interfere with your operation. Those guns should be guns to protect you as you're working. So our government, they realize that Kawatu na Mutwale, tabakwete capital yo, but nabasanga resource. They first of all take you into incubation to take you through some clinics on basic mining, how to protect the environment, safety, and many other things. In that time, the government mining department will be mapping out the area as they would have already established how much resource is in that particular area. Kurioku shidi batina kutia ukuino kuku mwilaimbilo kuyo tuamipela pama areas where you're going to be able to harvest. And then on top of that, government facilitates aggregators within the same area who should be able to absorb your produce. Bamiafundisha na machinery ya kuimba, bamistana train. Government should be able to train you on safe mining netia shala. So at the end of the day, by being a young Zambian who's hardworking, assisted by a responsible government, there is no reason why you should suffer, Enoch. Mwali yumfuila kuliba president bakugana. What they have done, they are now sailing, they are now getting over $10 billion out of these activities. Okay, why? Because they structured it. It was not very different. Gold mining, Kugana na kuna village take a but the government went in. A government that had a program went in and structured it. And because this was structured and government took interest, imisepela shire kwata share yashiko proper. Nava win imisepela kugana. Government na yo ile accumulate gold. So the reserves are going up, the youths are happy, everybody's happy. So most of these problems happen because government looks away. Government simply says, if my paper la fee, ni fee, na bantu send them allowances. Government should be responsible enough to get into what people are doing, what the youths are doing, and resolve the challenges. Because government is a big machinery. Government will not find it difficult to find someone to come and do studies. Government won't find it difficult to import machinery to place on these mines to assist the youth as it were. That is the answer to these challenges.
Well, thank you very much to everybody who's listened and who's been watching us on Facebook. That's on Brian Mundubile Facebook page, Ifintu Nulungu Facebook page, and any other Facebook pages that may have shared this particular video. We value your contribution to this particular program through your interaction with Honorable Brian Mundubile. Keep it like that, and keep sending those particular questions to our WhatsApp. The number is on the screen, and as we come next week, we'll be able to answer some of those particular questions or all of those particular questions as he sits here to have a conversation with you on the future of Mother Zambia. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Until next time.